What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Frozen Road Podcast. I'm Rose John Hunter, and I am joined with a familiar face. My man Dave Prinz here today. Dave, what's going on, buddy?
Hey John, how's it going, man? Thanks for having me back on.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. So, we're here to talk about the nonsense that was the Hall of Fame voting and all that bullshit that went on there. I want to talk about free agency today. There was a ton of free agency moves, trades, a lot of things that were kind of we were been waiting for most of the winter, and now it finally happened. It seems like that, other than Trevor Bauer, which when the hell is he going to sign? But we'll talk about that. And we got a lot of stuff going on. But I want to start off with the Hall of Fame shit. What do you feel? How do you feel about all that?
It's ridiculous. There are 14 Hall of Famers on this ballot. Even if you take known steroid users, failed test people off, you can still put probably 10 names on your ballot. So the fact that we got 16 blank ballots back this year, and 14, and yep. A whole lot of people voted for less than 10, like tons of them. And I can't even fathom it.
Yeah, it's actually kind of ridiculous that we keep going through this, and every year it's like a surprise to these people as, oh my god, these guys did steroids. It's like, stop with the steroid shit. Like, no, like, I get it. I get people think they disgrace the game. I understand that, but they also brought a lot of people in. They made baseball fun again. And people forget about that. And people act as if that didn't happen. And they get real self-righteous for some reason. And they're like, we're going to put our foot down. Well, the writers need to realize also that they would have nothing to write about if it wasn't. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I mean,
I was just say the people who benefited from it, Bobby Cox, Tony La Russa, Joe Torre, Bud Selig, these guys all got in. And they were the caretakers of the steroid era.
100%. They were watching these guys shoot up in the locker room and didn't even give a shit. You know what I mean? It's kind of crazy to me that they continuously slap, Bonds' wrist, and they slap Clemens' wrist. But like, Bonds and Clemens were two huge parts of the 80s, 90s, and that whole era. They were that era. They left off. I mean, obviously they got rid of McGuire from a couple years ago from the list, from the ballot. I mean, Sosa's still hanging on, but I don't know. I just think that they need to just get off their high horse. Maybe year 10 for them two guys will
next year.
Yeah, we're coming up on year 10 of the three guys who got the most votes this year. And I mean, are we going to see anything different? Because Bonds and Clemens didn't waver much from where they were last year.
Yeah, and with everything that's going on with Schilling and all the other things that are becoming a part of his story, the fact he didn't make it this year it makes it almost impossible to see it happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And him actually coming out and saying, I don't want to be a part of it next year, which he doesn't realize. I get he's digging his own grave, but like, I think he's also just kind of foreshadowing his situation for next year, where it's like, well, if I don't get in, I already told them I didn't want to be in.
And the irony here is one of the guys who got voted in last year by the Veterans Committee was Marvin Miller. And he was a labor boss. He's the only other guy that sent a letter to the Hall saying, I don't want to be considered. So, and it was politically motivated. So it's interesting that Schilling now has become the second person to request being removed. Mm-hmm. And it seems to be entirely political.
And I get it. Like, I understand that, like, people, that people hate his political views. I understand that. But why do we have to keep driving home political views and being the reason that certain guys don't get honored at the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, his politics didn't strike anybody out.
No, and they didn't. And they absolutely didn't. It seems like it struck a lot of people's nerves, but it doesn't. That's pretty much all it did. It didn't. It's not really affecting it didn't affect anybody else, but like but people seem to really hate the fact that he did that. Like we had a guy in our group chat who said about the whole Coop situation. Well, to be honest, it didn't. That happened 4 days after the Hall of Fame voting, so that had nothing to do with it. People literally just didn't vote for him because he is a Trump fan.
And
Which
he's loud and
he
obnoxious.
is, yeah,
He's a jerk.
absolutely.
I'm not
Oh,
going
100%.
to argue with that, right? But he
Absolutely.
can pitch. Come on, look at the man's numbers.
Yeah, and then I saw somebody else in another group that tried to compare him and Maddox. Like,
Ugh.
he's a Hall of Famer, he's not. All right, well, that's kind of unfair to compare him with Greg Maddox. Like, well, no one said he's the greatest pitcher of all time, but he's definitely a Hall of Fame pitcher.
He was one of the best. And the funny thing is, you've got Roger Clemens on the ballot, who may be the only other guy you could compare to Greg Maddox.
Yeah, and he just keeps getting slapped in the face because of steroids, and I don't know, man. It's starting to it gets on my it honestly gets on my nerves that they just every year we have to see the same amount of votes going to the same people, and it's just brutal watching it. And some of these guys have to be told, like, you guys are getting too old at this point to be voting anymore. Like, you have to get out.
Yeah, and what's encouraging is that as the voting populace starts to get younger, it seems like these kinds of situations are less of a problem. So we see
100%.
new voters are putting their votes next to guys who actually deserve it, as opposed to having all these other factors at play. There's just not enough time. The Bonds, Clemens, Sosa, Schilling class is about to run out, and then the Manny, Sheffield, that class is going to run out, and the Veterans Committee is going to be putting in 3 at a time for the next 10 years.
Yeah, and that's what exactly. So it's and I think the Veterans Committee has certain years where certain guys can go in, right?
Yep.
So it's like years. If you play between this time and this time, you have it's like 2024. I think is the next time them guys can go in with Veterans Committee, which is kind of bogus to me. But like let these guys get, because I mean, regardless of what people say, and regardless of what the voters want to bring in, the steroid era happened, and it's a part of the game. It's a part of history. It is a part of it. So why not just honor them guys? And I get it. You don't want to honor them because you feel like they disgraced it, but it's a part of the game.
Well, I think about Roger Maris. Roger Maris has been, he's a highly contentious Hall of Fame case because he had like maybe one good year, but it was the good year. He broke the home run record.
Absolutely.
So we all know who Roger Maris is. If you go to the Hall of Fame, you're going to see his name, when you're looking at the Hall of Fame, the home run records. So these guys, it's like half of them wants to erase the history, but you can't. You can't take away McGuire's season. You can't take away Bond's record.
No.
So you're not going to be able to take these guys out of the Hall. So why not just go ahead and put their plaque up, because it's more consistent with voting in the rest of the history that we have voted up to this point.
Yeah, and so I kind of can, and this is going to be probably an awful, what happened was awful, but I'm going to give a comparison. The way that the Hall of Fame in Major League Baseball is handling this is the same way that I feel Vince McMahon in WWF and WWE handled the Chris Benoit situation. They tried to make it as if he never existed. He wasn't like they have videos where he's in a match, and it's almost like they don't show it the entire time because they don't want to show his face. Yeah. So I get that, and I understand he was a horrific human for what he did. That was all he was. That's not even human. That's inhumane what he did. But that's how the Hall of Fame voters view a guy like Bonds or Clemens. They make it as if they are the worst of the worst people because of what they did, instead of just being like, well, let's hear both sides of it. And I think 75% is kind of wild, also, because in anything else in the world, if you got 60% of it, you got more than half, you already win. You know what I mean? You got more than half the vote, you got it.
Yeah,
they need so much more out of it.
75% to get in the Hall of Fame or to amend the Constitution. Seems like these things are at a slightly different level of importance.
100%, and it's I don't know. I just feel like they just put so much, like baseball always, and baseball will always be that Hall of Fame means more than any Hall of Fame and all the
Easily the
forms of
best.
sports.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it is the best. It's the one where everyone knows. I mean, people know Canton, but I couldn't tell you. Like I think the basketball is in New York. I think somewhere. Like,
Yeah.
do you know the
Sure.
exact area? Because I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone, people are going to be rolling off the tongue where it
Yeah.
is, but everyone
Somebody's
knows.
doing this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everyone knows Cooperstown.
Yeah.
Everyone knows Cooperstown. Cooperstown
That's right.
is it means a lot, and it does, and I get that. But less than 0.5% of players who have ever played in baseball are in the Hall of Fame. But then you have people who say, well, they just let anybody in. They really don't, to be honest. I mean, less than 0.5% of the people who have ever played in Major League Baseball are in the Hall of Fame. That's a small amount. So, like, I don't know. I just think that it's kind of wild that's how they look at things. Is like, they're like, if they let Bonds in, they'll just let anybody in. Like,
So it's
no.
about time they give you and me votes so we can fix this situation.
I have been trying to get a vote since I was 8, but they just don't care. They don't give a shit about me.
It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter
Yeah,
of time.
absolutely, and it should be because, like, and to be honest, I think what they should do is just do what they do with everything else. Let the fans vote because the
There you
fans,
go.
because I'm sure the fans there's going to be a lot more majority that would say let's put Bonds in than say let's keep that creep out that everyone acts as if he is.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to have Barry Bonds on here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just talk to him about why it's kind of crazy that he isn't in the Hall of Fame. He's in my Hall of Fame. I put him in every day.
He's in my all-time outfield, like top 3 outfielders ever. Barry Bonds is playing right field. Come on.
Exactly. I would pick. There's a lot of guys that I would pick pretty much anybody over Barry Bonds. I would pick Barry Bonds over anybody, pretty much anybody. There's, like, one of the best defensive outfielders ever. He's one of the best. He's obviously one of the greatest hitters, top 3 hitters ever. Like, he
was fast. He stole bases. He was smart.
But people really are just clinging to that. But, like, they're the same people who watched every night, who ran home to watch ESPN when they would show the clip of him hitting for 5 minutes.
Yep, the race.
Yeah, it was a great part of baseball. So just allow that to be something that we can enjoy still, because that was a big reason why I was a huge baseball fan back when I was younger. Like, watching them races, I was young doing that. I was like 7 or I think I was 8 or 9 during the home run race with Sosa and
McGuire.
Yeah, like that, and that was big. That was a big thing. I remember watching them every night. Like my mom would watch that. My mom loved the home run derby because of that. You know what I mean? Like it's stuff like that people like don't see. Like, these guys make like this fun.
The year after McGuire broke the record, I did something good at school. I can't even remember what, but my reward was my mom took me to a trading card shop and we got this gold bordered Mark McGuire Topps trading card of him breaking the record. I still have it.
It's one of the greatest part of
it was part of the whole ethos of baseball then. And
absolutely.
To try to scrub that out of the fan, and it doesn't work.
It isn't, and it doesn't work. You're right, and it's not. It's honestly not fair that's how they let that happen. Like they literally just disregard them guys as if they don't want them to ever be known as players. They wanted to make it as if they never existed. Keep them in the bathroom somewhere, and that'll be it.
Yep.
It's a perfect comment right here by Phil. There's no difference between a juiced up Barry Bonds hitting against a juiced up Roger Clemens. Baseball loved it when guys were going on, but yeah, exactly. That's perfectly said, and that's exactly how it is. They do. They make it as if it's not that wasn't a huge part of baseball.
And it's not like we're going to go back in time and say, well, Gaylord Perry used the spitball, so we're going to take away 200 of his wins and kick him out of the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I mean,
he still won those games.
Yeah, that still happened. Like it didn't. I love when people put asterisks on shit. I love when people say it didn't happen. It never. It doesn't really matter. Like, yeah, it does. That still matters. All those stuff, all that things still happen. My eyes still saw it. I still remember seeing it. So I'm not going to forget that it happened.
And I
So
still got the baseball cards to prove it. You know?
exactly. There's my Uncle Mart here with a comment here. No matter how good a player was, if somebody who votes doesn't like the person, they won't get a vote for them, and that's right. They won't. They act as if they don't like. He was mean to me one time. He's saying, oh, "Fuck out of here." Like that shouldn't be why you don't vote for somebody.
Nothing to do with baseball.
It has nothing. It has nothing to do with baseball. But it's and they don't. Steroids had zero to do. I mean, I don't know about zero, but it definitely probably helped. It helped the ball go a little further, I'm sure. But
Sure.
Your eyes you still have to have the hand-eye coordination. You still have to be able to do all the things right to put that ball in play. So
That's the interesting thing about what Canseco did is he said, look at your brightest stars. They were doing steroids, but he didn't stop there. He said everybody was doing them, right? So like 4 out of 5 guys or whatever. Well, 4 out of 5 guys didn't hit 600 home runs. Only Sosa and Bonds did. So
yeah,
so sure, steroids might have helped, but they didn't help everybody.
100%.
So the playing field was still tiered like it always is.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you have guys who are in the Hall of Fame who were doing what's the thing that
The greenies,
helps you and it helped them concentrate. That has more of an advantage than anything. Being able to see a baseball is hard enough. Like, you know what I mean? Being able to hit the ball in general is hard. That's the hardest thing to do in any sport. I don't care what anybody says. Maybe put a golf ball straight is another thing that's extremely difficult. But
the golf ball's not moving, right?
Exactly. A golf ball's not coming at you at 95 miles per hour. So me not being able to have if I have ADD, I'm never hitting a baseball. That's not happening. It isn't happening.
Chris Davis, right? Chris Davis for the Orioles.
Yep.
They tell him he can't take his ADD medicine, and he goes from a dominant slugger to can't hit to save his neck.
Anything. Yeah. And I mean, Carlos Ruiz, I think, got in trouble for Adderall when he was playing, and rightfully so. I feel like that's something that is more effective than a steroid would be. But hey, I mean, whatever. I mean, I guess that's if I don't know. I just don't see it as a reason why you should just continuously keep these guys out. It's played out. I don't know what's more played out, the steroid talk or the Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame talk. I don't know what annoys me more when I listen to people talk about baseball. They're the two things I just want to be like, shut the fuck up, please.
And the additional problem with this is you've got so let's say you hate steroids. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to vote for Bonds and Clemens. Why aren't you going to vote for Todd Helton? Why aren't you going to vote for Andrew Jones? Why aren't you going to vote for Scott Rowland? Why aren't you going to vote for Gary Sheffield? Now, you might be able to attach them to steroids a little bit, but if you're going to say they weren't good enough, well, then you're admitting that steroids made those other guys good enough, but didn't. So the only reason Rowland's not good enough is because he's not as good as the guy using steroids. So which one is it? Did the steroids make him better so they belong in the Hall? Or is Rowland actually better so he belongs in the Hall? The inconsistencies drive you crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like nobody gives good explanations on why they keep certain guys out. I mean, to be honest, they don't got to explain anything. They have the vote. They don't got to explain shit to me. But it would help me understand things more.
But I'm allowed to be mad, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, you can't tell me that I can't be mad that you're keeping somebody out. But I'm going to be fuming that you told somebody they couldn't be in because of steroids. When you were sitting there writing about how great he was while he was playing. Them writers had nothing to write about until for those couple of years. It was pretty hard to watch baseball. There wasn't much that was going on, and then
labor strife.
That killed it. That hurt baseball tremendously. The labor strike hurt baseball. I mean, I know there's a lot of people who hate when people say it, but Steroids saved baseball. They did. So these guys should be giving a little bit of credit to a couple of these guys. I mean, the Bay Area was brutal to watch baseball. San Fran wasn't exactly lighting the world on fire throughout the '90s. But I don't know, man. It's got to end. But let me stop right there, and we'll talk about the Lawnmower 3.0. Dave, I know you have one. So the introduction here, we have that's who supports us. We have it's brought to you by Manscaped. This whole podcast is who's the best men's below the waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision engineered tools for your family jewels. They obsess over their technology developments to provide you the best tools for your grooming experience. So Dave, when you got the same package that I did, right?
Yes, that's right.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It's very efficient equipment.
It is very efficient, very, very efficient. And you had they gave us a T-shirt, they gave us a bunch of shit.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's nice.
It was awesome.
Very effective. It's good stuff.
Better than anything I've ever used prior.
Oh yeah,
I think it doesn't pull, doesn't do anything like that, which is really nice. And that's why Manscaped actually redesigned the electric trimmer. The Manscaped engineering team spent 18 months perfecting the greatest ball hair trimmer ever created, and just released a new and improved Lawnmower 3.0. Their third generation trimmer features a cutting edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to the advanced skin safe technology pioneered by Manscaped. When I tell you this is premium, I mean premium. The battery will last you up to 90 minutes so you can take a longer shave. The waterproof technology allows you to groom in the shower. One of the coolest features is the LED light, which illuminates grooming areas for a closer and more precise trimming. They've also upgraded to 7,000 RPM motor with quiet stroke technology. And let's not forget about the charging stand. Show your mower off loud and proud because the intelligently designed stand is a convenient charging dock powered by USB. If you're listening to me speak right now, I want you to experience it firsthand for yourself. Trim that junk of yours. Get 20% off plus shipping with my promo code ROAD2020 at manscaped.com. Your balls will thank you. All right. And now the next thing I wanted to talk about. Was free agency and all the trades that happened since the last time I was on here. There's a couple things that happened, and the Lindor and Cookie Carrasco, they got traded to the Mets, which that's a huge deal, especially for a guy like you who's a Braves fan. That kind of I feel like that impacts the NL East tremendously.
Not happy to see Lindor in the division.
No, not at all. And because and it's weird because anytime I ever saw Lindor play, obviously Cleveland doesn't have a big market, but I have the MLB.TV, so I like to watch Lindor. He's one of my favorite players in baseball. So I felt like the Mets fit him perfectly because when I look at him, for some reason, I always see Jose Reyes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I mean, less power. Reyes had a lot less power, obviously.
Yeah.
But that's who I see. A very good defensive shortstop who, I mean, he's a switch hitter. Latin, obviously. So, there's just that. They have a lot of similarities. And now they're playing out, and he's playing with the Mets. And I think I think it was a great move, and I think it was a match made in heaven, to be honest, with them too. And then we had
what I hope to do is that he fleeces them for a huge contract because obviously he's going to be worth it. So hopefully they sink a bunch of money into him, and in 5 or 6 years they regret it. But in the short term, it's just a great situation, like you said.
Oh, absolutely. And I think one thing that I feel like does it kind of got mulled over and kind of just got thrown away was Carlos Carrasco.
Yeah.
I think that's a great move. I mean, he kind of just got thrown in there, but he's not a throw-in. Carrasco's not a throw-in. He's a very, very good starting pitcher, and especially in that rotation, I think he fits perfectly in the middle, probably a number 3 starter. I think he is perfect for that team. What about you?
Yeah. and especially now that it looks like they might be angling for Bauer, you already have DeGrom, Syndergaard. They had some question marks at the bottom, and that's what Carrasco gives you. You know,
Yeah,
he's worth a lot of innings. He's tough. He's smart. He's a veteran guy, and he's not too expensive.
no,
Which for the Mets, I mean, they've got the finances.
yeah,
So yeah, it's another frustrating thing. Like with the Mets in years past, you had one or two starters that you did not want to ever see. Like you don't want DeGrom to come to town because he will chew you up.
Mhm.
But if it's their three or four starters, if it was Porcello or Matz, you felt like you could probably get through that game. But Carrasco is a definite step up from those guys.
100%. And and then they not only did the Mets bring on Carrasco, they then dumped lifelong Mets fan and former Met now. They sent him over to the Blue Jays in Steven Matz. Now he's there along with the signings of George Springer and Marcus Simeon, who I think again another team that just said we're going to try to go for it a little bit. We have three. They have three or four or five young
Yeah,
contract controlled players who they know that they have a couple. They will have for a couple years a nice core there with
yeah,
Teoscar Hernandez. They have Bichette, Guerrero, Kevin Biggio. Like this is a team that can definitely do some damage here. Lourdes Gurriel. They have some good players there, and I'm a huge fan of when like watching a team that's going to bring up their own players and really let them come together and then add a couple of veterans here and there.
yeah.
And that's exactly what they did. I think they're going for it this year.
Yeah, I like their rotation too.
Yeah.
For you got to wonder, you got to think that Nate Pearson is going to take a step, and he's
Mhm.
kind of scary. Like he's got all the skills, and then they've got this sort of weird assembly of guys that always are okay at the back of a rotation, like Tanner Roark and Robbie Ray. Like you can't really trust them to be frontline guys,
Yeah.
but they're veterans. They've stuck around. They keep getting jobs because they're solid pitchers.
Absolutely. Who else did I see? Oh, and then we're gonna go back. We'll go back to New York. Kluber, LeMahieu. I mean, Kluber kind of took me by surprise a little bit. I thought he was actually going to be playing in Boston. He
Uh,
lives like 5 minutes from Fenway Park, they said, which, I mean, it seemed like it was just a perfect spot for him to pretty much end his career because it doesn't seem like he's got much left, but he decided to go to the Bronx. I mean, and on a 1 year deal, and they got, I think LeMahieu's was what, 6 years, which I feel like the years kind of scare me a little bit with that, but
was it that long? I know it
I
was
think it's
90 million.
I think it was like 6 years.
Wow.
The money's not bad for 6 years. You spread that out, but
Yeah, 6 years.
six
Wow.
years not 6 years 90 is. I mean the years is what gets me. Where I'm like, all right, well, this dude's gonna be sitting at second base, or I know he can switch over to first, but what are they gonna do with Luke Voigt
Yep.
eventually? So they're going to be put in a situation, but pretty soon where I mean you have Gary Sanchez who is just abysmal of a baseball player. I don't care what happens. That dude is a trash can. Like I don't get why people like he wears pinstripes. If he played it for any other team, people would look at him like he was the worst baseball player in the world.
He reminds me. Do you remember Jesus Montero?
Yes.
So same deal. The Yankees had this slugging, gloveless catcher, and they managed to figure it out with Montero and got rid of him. But Sanchez, they stuck it out because he had that one huge season. And now what? They're giving him $6 million next year. I love it.
For what? What is like? And this is another thing that I don't get, and I feel like they do this a lot, like especially with the Yankees. Like they sell you on guys who you shouldn't be sold on, and they jam them down your throat until you honestly think like, oh, maybe he is pretty good. Like they got. I remember when they got Ruben Sierra back in the early 2000s, and they made it like he was Ruben Sierra in Texas. He's not. Or even with David Justice, they felt the same way with David Justice when they got him from the Braves. It was the same thing. They jammed him down your throat. It's David Justice. David Justice. No, he's a shell of David Justice. He's not even close to Braves David Justice. But like this is what they do. They continuously shove it down your throat and make you feel as if these guys are still relevantly good. And I just don't ever understand. Like, and another one that apparently they moved players or they're moving players around to keep Brett Gardner. Let him go.
Yeah.
Let him go.
Uh,
Like, and this is like I don't mind seeing him come to the plate because apparently Yankees fans believe that this dude is like a stud. He's not.
I hate Brett Gardner.
I think it's his face. Like I have felt this way about him. Like, and not even just because of the Red Sox thing. It's strictly just him. If that dude played anywhere, I would hate him.
Yeah.
He just has one of his faces.
If he played anywhere else, he would have been out of the league 5 years ago.
1,000%.
The Yankees have just like wrapped him in tape and paper clips and kept him going well beyond his effective years. And he's just I cannot stand Brett Gardner. I was so ready to be done with him. When I saw him pop up that he was coming back, I was like, oh, come on.
There was nothing that was more satisfying to me when he threw his helmet and it smacked back in his face and it broke his nose. That was one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life. Like I don't think there was anybody I've ever seen deserve that happen more than Brett Gardner.
Yeah, he so the most punchable face in baseball for years was Nick Swisher. Well, now it's Brett Gardner. It's undoubtedly Brett Gardner.
You're not a Nick Swisher guy?
No. I mean, he was cool, but I would have punched him in the face for $5, man. Like, he was
like, did you ever? Probably haven't because you're a guy, but whatever. But did you ever see the show Reba?
No.
No, Reba McEntire. So
yeah.
The girl in that show is his wife.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like the main like young girl is his wife in real life. But like, I get you. I wanted to punch Nick Swisher too when he was with the Yankees. Yeah. Like, but then you didn't like him when he was with the Braves at all.
No.
I
was embarrassed by him.
I feel like he was just always like in your face.
Yeah.
Like, it's weird. Like
stupid look on his face, like, oh, dude, what's up? Oh, man.
Yeah. Like it's almost like he was too happy. Like, why are you so happy, dude? Like, you know what I mean? Like, be mad for like a second.
Yeah.
Like he's always smiling. Like I know he has like the I hate him, but I follow him on Instagram for some reason, and he does like these little like hitting tutorials, and he's so like emphatic about everything he does. Like yeah, we're gonna go over here. We're gonna load up on your back foot. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like I don't care what you're saying. Like
hit 220 from the left side for 6 months.
Yeah, you're probably going to give me great material. Like he probably gives me great hitting lessons, and I wouldn't listen to him at all. You know what I mean? Like I would not. I would just look at him and just think about different ways I could stab him with a fork.
Yeah, you know, same wavelengths.
Yeah, he's just one of them guys. It's crazy. Then there was and then back to the free agency instead of killing Brett Gardner and Nick Swisher. Tanaka went back to Japan.
Yep.
I don't think that's that bad. I think that was a great move for him.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. He's getting about $7 million from Rakuten.
Yeah.
And Kluber signed for 11. I think their comparative skills are probably pretty close. I mean, Kluber even to me seems like more of a risk because you don't really know if he's 100% healthy.
Yeah.
So the fact that, I mean, I think Tanaka did say he was taking a little bit of a discount to go back, but the fact that he wasn't going to get $11 million, that surprises me.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like when we talked the last time about free agency, we talked I think it was like a month ago we talked, and Tanaka was a guy we brought up, and one of the places we talked about was Seattle. And I thought Seattle, especially with a team that's up and coming, they have a huge Japanese market. It probably would have been a perfect move for him. But I mean, I get it. I definitely understand why, and you want to go home. Maybe that's what he just wants to go home for a couple of years, give his love back to where he was, and the reason why he was even in the big leagues is because of his time spent in Japan. So maybe that's what it was about. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. What really goes into the thought process of signing a huge $9 million contract, but like that's whatever. But I mean, 2 year, he got a 2 year deal too. That was a multi-year deal, and it was less than 10, which I kind of thought was a little bit of an insult, but it is what it is. I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, he's in his late 30s.
It's probably we probably won't see him come back. I would imagine
No.
this is it. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
they seem to hang on for a while over there, so I'm sure he'll pitch for 5, 6 more years. But
yeah, and
I can't see
he'll
him coming
probably be a
back.
stud. He'll be a stud over there. I mean,
Yep.
it's you learn they learn. It's crazy. I feel like when they go over to Japan, they bring the skills that they learn. Obviously, they bring this. Like he's already was a skillful pitcher because he came from Japan over to the United States, and then now he's going back. So the skills the even more skills that he learned here, because he definitely learned how to pitch. Learning how to pitch in the major leagues is a lot different than it is
Sure.
learning in Japan. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like it is the pitching coaches, the skills, the technology of how we communicate with as far as pitching is completely different here. And you got guys like with spin rate and stuff like that. Like he brings that over there. That's a huge that's a huge thing. You
Mhm.
know.
And
So
he's joining a rotation that already added Adam Conley this year. So if you remember him, left
yes,
the
yes,
months, yeah.
yes,
So
which is great.
yeah,
So D-Bake just brought up Trevor Bauer in the comments. So why don't we just talk about Trevor Bauer a little bit, and we talk about what's going on there? What do you think? Where do you think he ends up? It sounds like the Angels are out, which is the perfect spot for him. And for some reason, the Angels, to be honest, I would get rid of Callaway to bring him in. They need
right,
pitching more than they need a pitching coach.
yeah,
So bring him in, get rid of Callaway, bring Trevor Bauer, and get him his best. I don't care who he is. It could be his dad for all I care. Let him bring somebody. They need starting pitching.
yeah. The Angels should be rolling out the red carpet, but they apparently are out. So the Mets seem to be poised, which is really annoying. But I think someone mentioned the Phillies. I also wonder about the Giants. So they haven't been good.
Yeah,
The West is a nightmare because of the Padres and the Dodgers, but they have very little money on the books, and it's San Francisco, so they're capable of spending a great deal. So you
yeah,
kind of wonder if maybe they're dangling something to him where come sign a longer deal that maybe doesn't have the huge AAV, but it's like $400 million, and uh, better things are coming in San Francisco, and you can turn it around. Now, I haven't read a rumor or anything, but I just looking at the Giants roster and their financial situation, it's not unthinkable that he could go there.
oh, absolutely. And I mean, I know I watched a YouTube video of his where he explained his process and how he's going through his free agency and what he likes, what he doesn't like. And the one thing that he did bring up is that people have been saying a lot that he wants to go to a West Coast team because a lot of the West Coast teams, well, I think all of the West Coast teams do their spring training in Arizona. So, and he mentioned that has nothing to do with it, but I mean, you got to think that it has something to do with it
Yeah,
because that rumor didn't just come out of thin air. Someone was told that,
yeah.
and I know his agent Rachel Luba, has really been like selling, the fact that he doesn't care where he goes, he'll pitch anywhere. But
Mhm.
I mean, I just don't really. I see him more going in that direction into a a West Coast team where he does get. I mean, I know he doesn't. He's because I think he did say, "I don't care where I pitch. I pitch in cold weather. I pitch in warm weather." But you do care. You definitely care where you pitch, especially if you're going to sign a long term deal. You're going to want to spend most of your starts in a certain type of weather that you feel good about.
The of course the worst case scenario I think for everyone except for Bauer and the Dodgers would be Bauer going to the Dodgers. Um, that would just be obnoxious because they're already so good. And the one thing that they might not have is a dominant rotation because it kind of depends on what Tony Gonsolin ends up being and what Dustin May ends up being. But if you turn one of those slots into Trevor Bauer, all the noise the Padres have made would be for naught.
Yeah, and I think the Padres would really just be sitting there like, what the fuck? We just did all that, and then this is what happens.
And all it takes is one guy, and it flips.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. I mean, it really does. It just takes one guy to kind of just throw that whole thing out the window. But I would love to see. I want him to go to a competitive team. I think Trevor Bauer is awesome for baseball. I think the way that he thinks, the way that he describes the game, his love for the game, is a huge thing. And I don't know. I just think that's. He needs to be in the playoffs. Which I think would be a big reason why he should just go to the Angels, no matter who the pitching coach is. Stay away from him. Be your own pitching coach at that point. I would just be like, listen, I'm just going to go over here. You can teach them. I'll be over here.
Do you think Garrett Cole listens to his pitching coach?
No.
And some of these guys, no way.
No, he just gets that. He just gets whatever that shit is to help with his curveball. Yeah, that sticky stuff. But like that. But that's where I see it. I mean, I don't really look at it as, I like why is that such a big deal that they just don't get along? Like, all right, well, this dude just signed for. He's an investment. This guy is replaceable. That's how I look at it. And as sad as that is, because I do love, I have a huge respect for coaching and I have a huge respect for managers and stuff, but that just doesn't really make sense to me that you wouldn't sign a guy because your pitching coach doesn't like him.
And I think there's also an irony here because Mickey Callaway, of course, was with the Mets.
Yes.
And managed them. So it'd be kind of funny if the Mets end up landing Bauer because they got rid of Callaway and he ended up in L.A.
Oh, that would be incredible. That's
a little bit of poetry there. Yeah,
the New York Post would love that. That'd be all, you know what I mean? It's ridiculous, And I would love to see. I want him to do some. I want him to be able to go to a team that can contend. And I know that's what he wants. He wants to contend. He doesn't want to be a part of a rebuild. He wants to be a part of a contender now, which is perfectly reasonable if you're a free agent. That's your choice. This is your time. He's going to take this time, and he should take as much time as he needs. I'm not somebody who wants to like obviously for this purpose for the podcast. I love when people sign because it gives me more shit to talk about in an off season. But if he doesn't sign and look at Harper. Harper waited until the Phillies were in spring training, and like they were playing games, and that's when he signed. So he had to play catch up. So, but it didn't hurt him much because he still was the best player on the team, and he's been the last 2 years. But like, I don't know. I just really think that he's got to sign with the Angels. He's got to. That's the only logical team that he should sign with, and he would make them tremendously better.
Yeah.
But because I think the Angels are still like shell shocked with starting pitchers who are like popular after C.J. Wilson. I don't think I've seen them sign like a starting pitcher like to like a nice deal since then.
That was an utter train wreck.
Yeah, it was, and he was one of those guys where it was like, well, we signed Pujols and C.J. Wilson, and everyone was like, C.J. Wilson, this guy's great. He was just in the World Series, and then he was god awful. Yeah. He had he wasn't awful. He had like anxiety problems. I think when he got there.
Even before then, I mean, didn't he set the record for most walks in a World Series start?
I believe he did.
Wilson was pretty wild. So
yeah,
putting all your eggs in that basket was typical Angels.
Yeah. I mean, what's crazy is he was I think that was 2012, right? When that signing happened.
Yeah, because it would have been right after the
2011 World Series.
Rangers lost.
The Bills of baseball.
Yeah.
But when he I remember like when he signed there, he was, I believe, the best pitcher on the market that year, which just shows how awful the market was that year. But and it's a shame because we're bashing them for not going after the best pitcher, but like they did. But in their mind, they did that before, and it sucked, and it was an awful experience for them.
But come on, if you look
They're
at the
kind
names,
of
you look at the names in their rotation. I mean, Dylan Bundy was pretty good, but Jose Quintana was not good last year.
he hasn't been good in a couple
Griffin
of years.
Canning is a kid, and he got hurt. Jaime Barria is just a kid. Patrick Sandoval is just a kid. Andrew Haney, you never know what you're getting from him.
Yeah,
So, I mean, there's plenty of room for Trevor Bauer.
100%. There definitely is. But it's, and I think there's just becoming less room for Mickey Callaway.
That's right.
That's how I look at it.
I'm sure he can find a job somewhere.
I'm sure. You know what I mean? But it doesn't make any sense to me. But another Real Muto, JT Real Muto, finally signed with the Phillies. Phillies finally got him back, which, to be honest, Phillies fans have been, and because obviously I live here, so I hear the media. I was even one of them who was screaming sign JT, and to be honest, Matt Klentak might have done the greatest thing in his entire time with the Phillies by not signing him because he probably would have spent way more money than he ended up spending. They got him at a great deal, great amount of years. I think it was a perfect move. What about you?
I was frustrated at how effective it was because it keeps him happy. It doesn't break the bank, and I mean, once again, the middle of their order looks pretty scary. I mean, they've got things that they need to fix on the roster, but you don't want to have to navigate through Harper, Realmuto, Hoskins all that often.
No, and I mean, the one thing that always gets me with the Phillies, and I brought it up with Cooney when he was on here. The one thing that always kind of gets me a little bit with them is they are there are three. That's a great three hitters right there, but they're all very similar in the way that they're streaky.
Yep.
I mean, there was a point where Rhys Hoskins fell off the face of the earth for like almost a year. Like and then he went on like a crazy run in the middle of the summer and then got hurt and was there for the year. Which sucked because the Phillies were finally getting the production that they knew and wanted from him, and then that happened, which kind of blew. It did. It sucks because you want that, and he's a contract control, so he is dirt cheap for them right now. But when he's ready, when he's on, he's fucking on, and he's ready to play.
Yeah, if the Phillies do end up tanking out and they need to sell, Hoskins is the guy who brings back, 5 prospects.
1,000%.
He's just so cheap, such a great hitter, and he's young enough that a team could get 3-4 years out of him and then let somebody else deal with him when he gets old.
100%. Yeah, exactly. But like him being like he's virtually nothing right now. He's just a power hitter just sitting in your lineup that is dirt cheap, like I said, and he has problems with his glove. He's a first baseman, so that's why you're at first base.
Yep.
But another thing with that is Alec Boehm is another one. Alec Boehm is going to be a good ball player, and I think we've all seen that. So it's like you have Alec Boehm there. He does. JT just helps that lineup so much when it comes to that little core that they can build there. I mean, pitching is still an issue for me with them. They need to add relief pitching still. I know they added Archie Bradley, which is a great deal for them. And I thought they should have went harder after Hand, and they let him go to the Nationals. I don't know, and I even would have been cool if they would have went after John Lester, who also ended up going to the Nationals. Was another thing there, but they let two guys. That's two things that they needed. They needed a left-handed starter in the rotation. They don't have one.
Nope.
If I recall, they
nope.
don't have any.
Yeah. Nola Wheeler, Eflin, Velasquez if he starts, Sam Howard or Spencer Howard, they're all righties.
Yeah, so you have and if you're able to put a veteran with World Series experience, 2-time World, 3-time World Series champion.
Yeah.
You put that in your rotation. He's gonna help out. Like I'm big on that, and I don't like. I know that a lot of people will be like, oh, that doesn't matter, but I feel like it does. You bring a veteran who has that much experience, who can help these young pitchers out. That's big. That's a
Yeah, I
big
mean,
thing.
you've got. I mean, looking at some of these names, you've got Mauricio Rivera, Jojo Romero, David Jones. They could learn a lot from John Lester.
Absolutely, they could. And I mean, Nola could even learn.
Yeah.
Can even learn. You know what I mean? Like Nola's the best pitcher in that rotation, and he could help. He could definitely learn from that.
Yeah.
You know that he has no experience in playoff. He hasn't played in a playoff game yet. You know what I mean? So that's a big thing, and especially down the stretch, you're getting veteran, stuff out of these guys. Like you have a veteran who can talk to these kids and help them grow. I think that's where I really like. I think Nola is right on the cusp of being a. And I say when I say the word ace, it like I don't mean like I don't think that every team has an ace. I don't think every team has number one. There's just guys but I think he is right on the cusp there. He had a very, very good year last year, and he was dominant at one point. I mean, the beginning of the year it wasn't so hot, but like his opening day Marlins start was terrible, but he ended up really turning around and turned it on. He was unbelievable, and that's something that they needed to do. I mean, I don't want to talk too much about the Phillies, but that's what it was. That's just one thing that I feel like they kind of swung and missed on, but you can't win them all. And another thing I want to talk about was the Arenado and Chris Bryant. They've been in a lot of trade rumors, and I feel like they're two guys that could definitely help out probably any lineup.
Yeah, just about.
Just about any lineup. There's a lot of teams that are looking for third baseman, and to be honest, not to bring up the Phillies again. I think that's another spot where Chris Bryant could really help out.
Oh yeah.
So and that's another case where I would trade Rhys Hoskins.
Yep.
Trade Hoskins. You can move. I mean, you could honestly move Alec Boehm the first, or you could move Chris Bryant to first. Either way, that works out. And I mean, you're in win now mode.
You wonder what the Cubs do with Hoskins though, because they've already got Rizzo.
Yeah, I heard Rizzo, but that's another one that you heard is on. They want to trade everybody.
Yeah. I mean, they're not going to be good, so why not?
No, I mean their biggest bring back would probably be Wilson Contreras, right?
Yeah, he's got the most value by a long shot.
Yeah, and the fact that I think his contract's the most affordable.
He's the youngest. And
he's the youngest. Exactly.
He's a top 5 catcher in the National League.
100%.
Yeah.
So I do. I think that bring back would them two. There's still 3 guys on that Cubs team that the Cubs honestly don't even want anything to do with.
I actually saw rumors that they were trying to trade Jason Hayward, who's owed an obscene amount of money. The man's still $72.5 million still owed to Jason Hayward. Now I love Jason Hayward, but who in the world?
Sure you do.
Is going to acquire that guy for his 12th, 13th, and 14th seasons? $72.5 million. That Cardinals deal was atrocious.
The fact that they were able to move on from it,
I know,
might be even more atrocious. That they were able to actually acquire.
And I'm sure, Theo would say, "Yeah, I got my World Series. I don't care." But
yeah,
that deal's just as bad. I'm glad he's making that money. He's a nice guy, but yeah.
No, I'm good. I'm good on that. But yeah, Dave, you wanted to talk about your top 26, right?
Yeah. So this is something I've been doing for a long time. Just ever so often, I keep it regularly, and then ever so often I'll publish it, usually on Facebook, of the top 26 available free agents. And essentially how I determine who the top are is I just take their Fangraphs WAR, their F WAR from the year prior,
Okay.
and stack the position. So it sometimes will skew old a little bit, and it'll always skew expensive. So this has nothing to do with how much money it would cost, because these are going to be, you're not really going to be able to field this team. But I try not to. I don't do it like every week because guys don't sign enough. But we had enough movement that I put one out today.
Okay.
And I mean, I can just go through it.
Is there a way? Is there a way that we could get that on here?
I think there is. The question is, I don't know what it'll do when I hit share screen. Here.
There we go.
See
Look at that.
So this is the top 26. So I think the shortstop position, Didi Gregorius has got to be the best name on the board that's still left.
Okay.
And he's talking to the Reds. I heard rumors that the Indians might be looking at him because they would trade Rosario. But Jonathan Scope, highly undervalued. Dude's got a lot of power. But then there's also Colton Wong. Got him on the bench because he had 0.1 less F4 than Scope did last year. But I think both of those guys could be starting second baseman right now. Obviously, Nelly Cruz and Marcelo Zuna, they're really both DHs, but it's just a lot of home runs right there.
I'd love to see one of them in Boston.
Yeah, and it would not surprise me to see Marcel go there. Justin Turner playing third base. He's asking for 4 years. The Josh Donaldson deal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's worth it, but I think the Dodgers might bite the bullet and bring it back just because. If they don't, I could see him putting on an Atlanta uniform for a 2-year deal. Like 2 years, $18 million, just as a veteran presence.
Yeah,
and I would enjoy seeing Big Red in Atlanta. Maikel Franco, I moved him over to first because first base often doesn't have a lot of good players. But then you got Mitch Moreland on the bench, so there's a little bit of bench work for first baseman, but you're not going to get a starter anymore.
Dude, I heard a rumor about Mitch Moreland and the Red Sox coming back together again. If Mitchie Two Bags gets back into Boston, I don't know what I'd do. I mean, I liked Mitch Moreland. I do. I really do. But I don't know if I could do another 2 years with Mitch Moreland.
You'd have to think it's the end. Like, wherever he goes, he's just going to go there to finish it out. But
yeah, you'd have to. It doesn't make much sense for Mitch Moreland to sign somewhere and them sign him a big deal. He's going to probably get a 2-year for probably like $10 million if I had to guess.
Yeah, and he's just a bench lefty. Like, I don't even see him starting much places in the league. But he's a veteran dude. He's been around, so somebody will throw him a bone.
100%.
The two catchers that are at the top of the list are Yachty, who it's probably Cardinals or bust, and then Tyler Flowers, who I think is getting kind of disrespected because there are a bunch of catchers that have gone off the board under him. Alex Avila signed today. I had the list in my head a little while ago, but Flowers has been an excellent defensive catcher. Now, he had an uptick of pass balls last year that was really weird, but he's always graded out really well framing, and then he'll get hot every once in a while and pop out some homers. Now, you don't want to watch him hit every day because that'll drive you crazy.
Yeah.
But the fact that some of these teams that don't have at least a legit backup catcher are not putting Tyler Flowers, I can't, unless he's asking for like $12 million or something. I don't know why he's not getting a deal.
I would assume that's what I would assume is the asking price for him right now is probably from himself is probably a little high.
Yeah, because he only made $4 million last year for the Braves, and it seems fair again if I were paying him out.
I mean, there's only been two major catcher. There's only been 2 major catcher signings, right?
Yeah, I mean,
it's just Real Muto and McCain.
And McCain, who were number 1 and number 2. So this is
100%, yeah.
The third and fourth catchers. Yeah.
And I think they got the money we pretty much assumed they'd get.
McCann might have gotten a little more than I expected, but yeah.
Really, I see. Now I thought that he kind of undersold himself a little bit, but what's crazy is I feel like he's the reason why Real Muto got 115 instead of the 160 that he was assuming he'd get. Or I mean, there was a ton of rumors saying that he wanted 200, which was absurd. But
I wouldn't give him 200 over 10 years.
that's absurd. It's tying you up, and I'm glad. I am. I'm actually really glad that he signed that deal. But go ahead.
But then, after that, you got your outfield. So we already talked about Ozuna, but Kevin Pillar and Jackie Bradley Jr. and Eddie Rosario would round it off. And I think the fact that JBJ hasn't signed is kind of weird to me, because he's, again, a veteran guy, great defender. You throw him down at the bottom of the order, and he'll give you surprise power every once in a while. Yeah. I mean, you got to think the Red Sox are just sort of waiting around for him to get desperate and then snatch it back up.
I was thinking either him going back to Boston. I mean, the Phillies are also another team. I mean, Dave Dombrowski's there, and there's an obvious glaring hole in center field. I even heard rumors of him bringing back what's his name? Who's the idiot? Odubel Herrera.
Yeah, I mean, he's still under contract.
I mean, it's absurd, to be honest, that he would even remotely go back there, or they would bring him back. I don't give a shit. I don't think he's good. I think he's terrible, to be honest. He can't. I think I've said this to you before. I'd rather watch Floyd Mayweather read a book than watch him read fly ball.
Yeah.
I think it's terrible watching that dude read a fly ball, and the fact that they would allow him to go in center field every day again, it just infuriates me.
Yep. So then over on the pitching side, we all know about Bauer, but I think the names under him are what kind of surprises people. Because you got Rick Porcello, actually has been the number 2 guy since the offseason started. Adam Wainwright, Rich Hill, and Tyler Anderson. Now, Tanaka and Mike Minor were both in the rotation at the beginning of the year, so they came off. But I mean, Rick Porcello, he's not good. Nobody thinks he's good.
No.
But last year he 8 innings. Like, he was actually a serviceable right arm. And
because it was an even year.
Yeah, it was an even year. So maybe they just need to sign him to a 2-year deal where they heavily backload it and then make him pitch in AAA this year or something.
Yeah, like make him get Tommy John for no reason, and then
just accidentally shoot him in the foot. and then your bullpen. Now those guys have been flying off the shelf. That's almost an entirely new bullpen since we started. But I mean, Clippard, obviously. I mean, it's like the guy will pitch forever. Trevor Rosenthal's had quite the renaissance. I think the Braves were sniffing around at him. We need a closer. I would like that. I'm not sold on McGee. Colomé is a strong name, and then Soria, Wilson, Hunter, and Perez are all kind of rotate veteran arms, and that's sort of what we're getting to. So after 2 or 3 more names come off the bullpen list, it'll kind of be, pick your poison and all the same. Shuffle the deck.
It's actually crazy to me that Oliver Perez is still pitching.
Yeah.
If any starting pitcher ever just is like, well, I want to be a starting pitcher, but like, look at Oliver Perez. Like there's a lot of starting pitchers in baseball right now who I feel as if they refuse to give up being a starter, and they kind of are like arrogant about it. But like, look at a guy like Oliver Perez, who was, for every bit of it, he was the number 1 starter for a couple years in Pittsburgh back when his career started. He was the guy there for a couple years. I mean, not saying he was an ace, but he was the guy for the Pittsburgh Pirates back in the day. And then he kind of just transformed into a reliever, and a pretty damn good one, especially his days with Cleveland. He was awesome in Cleveland during that World Series run.
And he was a loogie, he would just come out and get one guy. But
yeah,
he was really good at it.
And now the 3-batter rule kind of hurts Oliver Perez a little bit, because
it does.
guys like him who were just coming in for that one inning, for that one batter, it definitely affects him. It affected his career. He's now he's sitting in free agency right now. Probably 2 years ago, he would have already been signed somewhere.
Oh yeah, I mean a veteran lefty that's not going to be demanding much money that would be snatched up in a heartbeat. But now it's a big question. Can he get two righties out in a row? And I don't think we've talked about the rules, and that's not really the topic right now. But I think that rule is ridiculous.
My cousin Brendan with the he's only 57. He's got a few left.
That's right.
That's right, man. He is. He's not. He's just keeps getting older, but it seems like he still keeps getting people out. So it still
left on will travel, right?
Yeah, absolutely. He's just going to just keep going until someone tells him they're not going to sign him. I mean, I feel like I feel like Suri has been around for a long time too.
I mean, remember back when he was the executioner and was one of the better closers for the Royals, and then the Brewers. He still gets guys out. He's still a valuable reliever.
Yeah, man, it's crazy, man. It's crazy that a lot of these guys do stay around, and I don't know. I like Rick Porcello. I always loved Rick Porcello. He was a big part of the Red Sox, but he
Cy Young.
Yeah. Another guy that I heard a rumor on was Adam Wainwright. I heard Adam Wainwright possibly could move to he is willing to move to the bullpen.
Really?
I heard I saw a article, I forget who posted it, where it was posted, but I read it, and that he has talked to teams saying that he would be a closer if needed. I mean, he could extend this. He's another one. He could extend his career on that. Yeah. He could sign like a 4-year deal and be a closer somewhere, or at least 1 year. Try it out, see how it works, and then go from there.
That curveball he's got, and the thing about Waino is, every fifth day you're not going to get that awesome pitcher, but in the playoffs, in the wild card game, Waino's going to come out there and strike out 13 and make you look stupid. So he may work really well in like a pressurized closer type of role.
And I believe when he came up, I think it was like 2006 I think he was on that World Series team, wasn't he? That 06 Cardinals team. I think that was like his younger years. I believe he closed out a couple of games that year too. He was a big part of that World Series when they won.
Yep, he did. I remember that.
Yeah, and which is, I mean, if he feels as if that's how his career is going to go, and that's what I would love to see. Yeah, I want to see starters go. You know what? I want to stay around. I want to pitch. I want to be a closer. I'm cool with that.
And something that I'd love to come back on the show and exposit longer on is the short starter concept. But you take a guy like Bauer or DeGrom who throws 100 miles an hour with this nasty splitter, and you tell him you only need to throw 45 pitches. Go out there and throw the 45 best pitches of your life and then go take a shower. He becomes 10 times better. He becomes an absolute unhittable machine. And so I guess as a commercial, the next time I come on John's show, I'm going to talk about the short starter solution and how we should change baseball.
Absolutely. Yeah, you could. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if you were able to like that. And I feel like that's how baseball is going anyway. I feel like you're seeing the reliever kind of, I mean, the starter kind of, work. They don't want them to work the third time through a lot. So if they're able to go 1-2 innings, I mean, like what, 5? I think 5 is where they really want them to be. They want them to be in that 5 inning range, because no one really cares about wins and losses anymore. So it's just you're when it comes to starting pitchers, they care about wins and losses on their team record. They don't give a shit about the wins and losses on the
stat.
Record. It's not a stat that they give a shit about. They want the most dominant parts of the pitcher. They don't want to see that third time. That's a huge reason why Blake Snell got taken out.
Yep.
Because it had not people probably thought that Kevin Cash was afraid of Mookie Betts. He wasn't. He didn't want him to face a third time through.
Yep. And
yeah, that's something to get to know.
there's a lot of backseat driving, side seat managing, where you say, you can't take out the Cy Young and blah 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 blah. But it was the right decision.
Oh yeah, I mean, when it comes at like he's gonna bring in a fresh arm who's ready to go,
And
and I
just
think that
a stud bullpen, and he's bringing in one of the best relievers in baseball who had not thrown a pitch that day after Snell had just given up a hit. And all Mookie had to do was get a hold of one, and it was a totally different ball game. So yeah,
if I understand correct, if I remember, I mean that whole series I feel like was a blur, but.
Yeah.
I'm almost positive Mookie didn't hit the ball hard. It was like a dribbler, wasn't it? I think he got a dribbler and he ended up being saved. It was an infield single that he ended up getting. It wasn't like anything crazy. So that decision,
he didn't hit one out.
No, exactly. He didn't cry. I know somebody hit the ball hard. I don't think it was Mookie though.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and watch the tape.
Yeah, I'd have to watch the game again.
And the way those Dodgers were hitting, I mean, it could have been any of them because Seager was a man during that series. So yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's for another day. We're gonna get out of here. Dave, thanks for coming on again.
Thanks, John.
I appreciate it. Absolutely. Yeah. We'll probably have you on again in another month. I feel like that's our thing. We'll have you on once a month. Really enjoy talking to you. So, all right, we're going to get out of here. Thanks for watching, everybody. And I'll talk to you later.